Hey, this is Teresa, homeless addict in recovery here in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Um, so I've been sitting out here by the creek bank and I've been thinking a lot about the reasons why I went through some of the depression that I did last week and why um, those feelings keep coming up inside of me. And a lot of it has to do with my environment. I guess you'd have to be there to understand. But sometimes it feels like I'm fighting a losing battle. At the end of January, I threw myself off of a bridge. I received a felony because I was out of my mind. And I served 3 months in isolation and then was put on 3 years of probation. I was out of my mind because I had been attacked. And so I was attacked severely enough that it triggered my PTSD, and I had the worst experience that I had ever had with my PTSD. And I literally floated in and out of myself and was not aware of what was going on around me. And whenever I went to the police for help, I was arrested instead, and they said that I was on drugs, even though I had a bite mark on my face and I had bruises on my throat. I had evidence, and I even tried to tell them that I had a witness, but I was screaming and crying, and I had lost all control of my bodily functions. And it was very hard for me to articulate myself, but I did articulate myself enough that I made myself clear that something had happened to me, and instead nobody listened to me, and that confirmed for me some of the emotional trauma that I had from people basically telling me that my life meant nothing and that I had no worth as a human being. After years of being out here and seeing certain behaviors from people who didn't care what I thought because I was just a homeless woman, and the way that men regarded me and the way that people spoke to me. And I'm a very strong person, but those things wore away at my confidence and my belief in myself. And those things were something that were already fragile, although I didn't quite realize it because I was hiding behind the shield of my anger. Um, I didn't even realize at the time, most of the time, whenever people hurt me because I lashed out, but those things had an impact on me. And so now I experience those things emotionally a lot. And after I suffered this attack and the cops arrested me and said that I was on drugs and didn't get me the help that I needed, I got arrested again. And I don't even remember what that arrest was for. And then they arrested me a third time. And when they did, I was scared. So I kicked the cop in the groin and I got second-degree battery on a police officer. And after I spent 3 months in isolation and I got out and I could hardly remember how to do basic things like dress myself, I didn't think I could meet the requirements of my probation. So I threw myself off of a bridge. And I have worked really hard to rebuild myself and my confidence and maybe build true confidence for the first time ever in my life. But because I suffer from a personality disorder as well that stems from trauma, and one of the main identifying factors of that is a shifting sense of self, sometimes my worth is reflected in the opinions of the other people around me. And I can't remember the things that I'm so proud about whenever other people tell me differently about myself, even though I should know. So my psychiatrist has recommended to me that I play my videos um, where I'm speaking on different things and to remind myself of who I am in these moments. So I'm trying things like that, and I'm sticking to making my videos, and I'm not laying in bed. But the thoughts really bother me sometimes about how, you know, I worked so hard and have put in so much effort, and yet I have people telling me the same things about myself, that I'm too loud, I'm too much, that that I act in certain ways that I don't feel like I act. I feel like I go out of my way to be humble now, and to try to be kind and considerate to other people. And it was because of this and being so respectful of other people in my environment at the shelter that I was so offended when somebody moved into the shelter and was disrespectful to me. And I was working for the day center that's affiliated with the night center. They're all part of the same organization. And that person was disrespectful and acted entitled, and they didn't work for Seven Hills whenever I did, and they got their own bedroom. And so my feelings were hurt, and I felt disrespected. And I vented to a coworker and to my caseworker, which I was encouraged to do, and then I got fired. I felt like I got over it pretty quickly. I went to my daughter's, I made videos, I kept myself distracted. But being in the environment where I'm at, um, and noticing the changes in a place that set out to make people feel more comfortable than Salvation Army, and that showed more of a personal touch, and was supposed to be geared more towards understanding homeless people's needs, like, and their trauma. um, Seeing the way that it has changed into an environment that's similar to all the ones I've experienced before, um, disappoints me daily, and wears my spirits down. And I see, that it's more catered to the needs of the employees rather than the people who need the services. And I can't blame a shelter for just being a shelter. And yet my expectations were raised because I believed that this would be different. And I just don't see those differences. And because the environment is uncomfortable and doesn't allow room for creative outlets, like I have no space to even keep my paintings. If I don't have somebody come get them, I'm going to have to throw them away. you know? Like, I was told that it's unnecessary right now. But these same people, when they saw how I was after I threw myself off of the bridge, they encouraged me to rediscover my dreams and my passions and act like it mattered to them. They watched how hard I worked to regain everything that I have. And because I was a human being, and my feelings were hurt, and I voiced a complaint about a perceived injustice, I was fired from a job that I worked so hard at, and my coworkers loved me and everybody complimented me, but nobody spoke a word in my defense. And I'm not just thinking about myself. That's not what depresses me. What depresses me is that it's like this everywhere that I look, for people who have been through so many things, and just need some encouragement in their dreams. They don't need to just have a roof over their head and food in their stomachs. That's not going to solve the problem. That's not going to help some of these people. And even if it does, it doesn't have to be this hard. There could be more understanding, there could be more treatment for the things that we've gone through. I'm not playing a victim. There is a reason why it was so hard for me to make it in society. I raised 3 children. I worked multiple different jobs. I ran a 5-person household. I used to wake up at 2 a.m. to to think about the things that I hadn't got done or worry about them. And it was still never enough. And I couldn't maintain it. And I didn't know how. And I didn't have the tools. And it failed for me. And I don't quite know why. But I do know that just having a roof over my head and food in my stomach has never been enough to motivate me to get up every day and go work a 9 to 5 job. To have what? I need my dreams. I need things like my paintings. I need understanding. I'm a human being, you know. I have support from my family, from my daughter and my other 2 children, my other daughter and my son. And I have some friends. But I have to live in an environment that feels intolerant to someone like me, where I'm basically just supposed to ignore the fact that people that I thought cared about me watched me work so hard and took away an opportunity that I had and blamed me for it because I felt like they were wrong in doing that. Like, I don't care how much you help somebody. If that person is working for you and they're doing a good job, I don't feel like they should be allowed to be disrespected or see somebody who doesn't follow the rules and isn't kind to other people get rewarded for bad behavior. But it's not just that. It's a representation of a bigger picture of how things work. And I look at this and I look at the fact that it's so hard for me to control my emotions and I have to work so hard at that. And that I don't know if I can wake up and deal with these emotions and work a 9 to 5 job. But I know I have to. But then what? Then when I work this 9 to 5 job and it doesn't pay very much money and it costs so much to live, how do I afford it? How do I do that and meet the requirements of my probation and not be so miserable whenever I wake up every morning that I end up wanting to throw myself off of a bridge again? And doesn't anybody care about how I or other people like me feel? Or are we just supposed to swallow those feelings, figure it out for ourselves, and be grateful for a roof over our head and food in our stomachs? And so I just want to be able to speak out about these things in a way that makes some kind of difference, but I don't know how. And so that's another part of the depression. Because if I can't speak out, if I can't make a difference, if I don't have enough time to pursue my dreams, and I'm miserable working 9 to 5 for somebody else, to work a job where I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get a roof over my head before the shelter decides to give me an exit date and I end up back out in the woods. then what do I do? And so I try to just let go and trust in God. But I'm not perfect. And so when I feel like this, I want to self-medicate. And then if you self-medicate, then you've got the people out there that judge you for it, but they're the ones that put people in that position sometimes in the first place, because my whole life, until I was 35 years old, I never tried a hard drug, and yet I still was not accepted, and I was judged by people like that. And there's a reason why I tried a drug and liked it, because it helped me deal with emotions that were brought on by the feeling of being an outsider. I want everyone to know that I'm saying these things because I'm hoping other people out there who feel like systems in place that are meant to help and maybe have been afraid to speak out about it because they're afraid that they'll seem ungrateful, or they're afraid to stir the waves, that I know how you feel, and that I'm hoping I'm not the only one who feels this way, and that I'm not wrong, because I can't stop feeling this way. So if I am wrong, I guess I'm just going to have to be wrong.